is the Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
My mother taught me never to be late, so please forgive me for my late arrival to this session. I had some meetings with extremely important people in East Central Alberta, Mr. Speaker, after which I was honoured to be elected by the great people of Battle River Crowfoot. I served in this House. I thank the great Damien Kirk who made it possible, and I thank the Prime Minister for calling a prompt by-election. I wonder if one day he might regret that decision, but...
I have a feeling Mark Carney will be regretting that decision. House is back in session, and Pierre Poilievre comes out of the gate strong, and Mark Carney gets wrecked. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Johnny Says So. Make sure you smash the like button and subscribe to the channel on your way in. Well guys, the day is finally here. The House of Commons has officially begun sitting for the fall session, and it's about time, because there have only been 21 days, including today, that the House of Commons has been in session. Pretty ridiculous when you think about it. I mean, it's already September. What are we paying these guys for? But before we get into what happened on the floor, I think it's about time we talk about tone. This is the narrative that I'm sure you've heard by now. Every time Pierre Poilievre actually takes Mark Carney to task for something, or points out some very true facts as to what's gone wrong in our country over the last decade, all they can seem to do is attack his tone. They can never actually address what has been said. So CBC Watcher put this one out. Looks like Liberal pundit Scott Reid got the quote tone talking point memo too from the Liberal Party strategy room.
Now, of course, this will be, as you mentioned, the first time Mark Carney and Pierre Poilievre will face off. What do you expect there?
Well, I'm really going to be watching for tone from both of them. So number one question about Pierre, to be honest, some of his critics say, look, it's not so much what you say that makes people think of MAGA. It's the manner in which you say it. It's this.
So there it is. He just admits that it's not what he says, but he has to deflect to the manner at which he says it. And notice he also injected, it makes people think of MAGA. They really can't let this one go, guys.
Sort of peacocking, overly masculine, yelling, negative politics. So will he seek to moderate that even as he puts tough questions? Will there be fewer limericks and rhymes and all these kind of like cute little slogans of his? That's thing number one. For Carney, though, he's got a tone issue too. Carney does not like to be questioned. He doesn't like to be prodded. So
now, to me, that's not so much a tone issue. That's an integrity issue. Mark Carney does not like to be questioned. He doesn't like to be held accountable. I'm glad Scott Reid just said the quiet part out loud there and really admitted the real problem with Mark Carney.
So can he keep his good humor, even as smile his way through the attacks? Or will he get short? Will he get thin-skinned? And will he get punchy in return? So I'll be watching to see how both of them handle their tone.
So you can see what Scott's up to there, right, guys? He's pretending to be objective by mentioning Mark Carney's tone, when of course he really just ends up admitting to a huge character flaw of his. But also notice his language there when referring to Pierre. Now he says things like hyper-masculine, peacocking. Well, maybe he thinks we've forgotten about this. So this clip is Scott Reid taking a very hyper-masculine, peacocking tone when talking about the Conservatives during the hiking ban. Listen to this.
The National Post, I think, has 4 articles about this a day. Like, it's not just X. Like,
Exactly. Post media. Like, these fucking people, man. These fucking people who don't step foot in the woods, right? Who don't live there. And they don't have any practical experience with this. They decide that this is...
So I want to know what you guys think down in the comments. Does Scott Reid have a tone issue? I mean, seriously, that's quite the aggressive tone considering he's talking down to people that have genuine concerns that their movements may be restricted every single summer, and maybe they don't want to see it happen in their province. Now I want to get back to the tone police here. Marcia McMillan on CTV continues this talking point.
Are you expecting to hear or see a shift in Pierre Poilievre's tone?
I don't think that's a rational expectation. I think there's a lot the Conservatives want to talk about this fall, from the increase in violent crime to the temporary foreign worker program, where they want to...
Exactly. How could you not have a sense of urgency in your tone when you're talking about the increase in violent crime in this country, which is a safety concern for a lot of Canadians, and the temporary foreign worker program, another one, that has literally destabilized the healthcare, housing, and job markets in this country?
hold the government to account, and those are issues the government doesn't want to talk about. So I would expect the tone to not be that different from what we typically heard.
Well, we heard from McKinnon earlier saying that that tone was rejected by Canadian voters in the last election, and he used the example of other Conservative premiers who have shown a more collaborative approach to working together. Do you not think that Pierre Poilievre would take notice of that?
Now, that's exactly why they're constantly talking about Pierre Poilievre's tone. They're trying to pre-program it into the minds of Canadians that nothing is getting done or going to get done just because the Conservatives won't cooperate with the Liberals. That's the propaganda. That's how it works. Now, this clip is awesome. Conservative political analyst Kate Harrison does a great job of breaking this down.
Just on that, like, I don't want to go through false manufactured drama of minority government in crisis, election imminent is going to fall. Like, nobody really thinks anything like that is in the cards right now with everything that is going on, right? Like, it's really about how much water do you have to take in your wine to make progress on the things where there is at least overlap.
Rob spoke to fault lines. I think we will see those fault lines when we have a real trade agreement and negotiation to discuss with our largest trading partner. It seems like a Herculean task to align the interests of Ontario and the auto industry, Quebec and supply management, and Alberta with their minerals and resources, and emerge from those conversations in a position of strength. Vice what we have right now. So I think that's where you'll start to see some of the fault lines. And just to that point, I think that when the next election happens, will be far less about parliamentary cooperation in the House, though I believe that that's what Prime Minister Carney will blame as the rationale for the election and the lack of that consensus and getting things done. I think, if anything, it is going to be determined by how long President Trump is in the White House for. I think he will not run the next.
She nailed it. Without Donald Trump as a boogeyman, Mark Carney has absolutely nothing, and it's only going to be a matter of time before Canadians figure this out. Now, this is a really interesting article I saw last week. Canada will thank Trump in 20 years, former Quebec Premier Jean Charest says. Of course, guys, and I don't even think it's going to take 20 years. Let me know what you think down in the comments. But listen, I don't like this tariff situation either, but you have to admit that it has sort of forced Canada to do, or at least talk about doing, the things that we should be doing anyways, regardless of this trade war situation.
Next election without having Trump as a boogeyman that he can go back to voters and say, you still need me in this position, and with a strengthened majority mandate in order to get things done. And I need that majority in order to do so. So I would be looking far less to the tone in the House in terms of what it means for the future of this government, and much more to the relationship with the United States, because it is how Carney came to power, and I think it's how he's going to propose to stay in power.
Okay.
So now, with the full context of Pierre Poilievre's tone out of the way, let's take a look at his very first encounter with Mark Carney in the House of Commons.
Damien Kirk, who made it possible, and I thank the Prime Minister for calling a prompt by-election. I wonder if one day he might regret that decision, but in a spirit of good faith, I wonder if he agrees that our goal should be a Canada where hard work is rewarded, where food and homes are affordable, where streets are safe, where borders are solid, and where we're all united under a proud flag.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'm sure I speak for all parliamentarians in welcoming the member for Battle River Crowfoot back to the House of Commons. He may notice a few things have changed since he was here last. The largest women's caucus in Canadian history.
More identity politics. Mark Carney is just continuing where Justin Trudeau left off. with ridiculous attacks about misogyny. You see what he's doing there?
And a spirit of collaboration that was shown in the opening session, including in the passage of the Build Canada Act and the projet de loi du Bloc québécois en ce qui concerne.
And the Bloc's bill in terms of protecting supply management. I agree entirely with.
Of course, supply management. The reason why our dairy prices are astronomically high, and another major contention point with the United States.
The sentiment and objectives of the Leader of the Opposition.
I was deliberately flexible on time because it's a special day, but now we're going to respect the 35-second limit. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Some things never change. Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank my constituents of Battlefield Crowfoot, who we had a by-election very quickly, and sometimes the Prime Minister may regret his decision, but I think we all agree with the mission of re-establishing a Canada where hard work, an affordable home and homes and food, in safe streets and solid borders, all united under a proud flag. Does the Prime Minister agree with this?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I agree entirely with the sentiment and objectives that the Leader of the Opposition has just expressed for our great country. Thank you.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister mentioned how much had changed, and it's true. I look around this place, and when I left, there was a Liberal Prime Minister who was making excuses about breaking promises, running massive deficits, costs, crime, chaos were all out of control. And whereas today, we have a Liberal Prime Minister breaking promises, making excuses, running massive deficits with costs, crime, and chaos out of control. Mr. Speaker, when will the Prime Minister match the grand promises with the real change Canadians need?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I understand the Minister, or the Minister, promotion. Come on over. I understand the Leader of the Opposition was busy. He missed the largest tax cut for 22 million Canadians. He missed the cut on the GST for new homes. He missed eliminating all federal barriers to trade. He missed. I hope I'll have another opportunity to finish a very long list of what the Leader of Opposition.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Dans l'esprit.
In a nonpartisan spirit, we're simply going to insist that the Prime Minister adhere to his own promises. He promised the strongest growth in the G7 for our economy, and now our economy is declining the fastest in the G7. He also promised that food would cost less. It's more, and food inflation is accelerating. He promised a budget in October, and now we'll see one maybe in November with a double deficit. So, inaudible.
Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, this government has been absolutely focused on improving affordability for Canadians. That's why the largest tax cut, 22 million Canadians, every taxpayer in this country. That's why the cut to the GST. That's why the launch of Build Canada Homes, which will reduce the cost of home building in this country. That's why we back the CRTC to get broadband costs down for Canadians. We are building the strongest economy throughout the worst crisis in our history.
The worst crisis in our history? That's a pretty bold statement. If it was the worst crisis in our history, maybe they would have, had the House of Commons going through the summer.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
In the spirit of nonpartisanship, we are simply going to hold this Prime Minister to his own promises. He promised that he would spend less. He's already spending 8% more. He promised the budget would be in October. Now he says it will be in November, more than halfway through the fiscal year. He promised that his government would have a smaller deficit than Justin Trudeau. Instead, now we hear that it might even be double. So a trivia question. Can the Prime Minister tell us, has there ever been a Prime Minister who has successfully doubled the deficit without even introducing a budget?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Now that's a trick question, but I want to know what you think the answer is down in the comments.
It's a trick question.
Mr. Speaker, this government is undertaking the biggest investment in protecting Canadians in the Canadian military. Doubling our investment in the Canadian military from last year when this member last sat in the House by the end of this decade. This government.
Now that's another reason why I brought up that article about whether or not Canadians will be thanking Donald Trump in a few years' time. The military spending issue. Let's not forget who drastically cut funding to the military. Justin Trudeau, of course. Now this is something we should be doing with or without Donald Trump. So that's why I brought up that article.
There's more.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
There's a lot more debt is what there is, Mr. Speaker. A lot more debt than we ever imagined would be possible. This is a Prime Minister who said we'd have the fastest growing economy in the G7. We have the fastest shrinking economy in the G7. He said grocery prices would go down. They're going up faster than ever before. He promised to create jobs. He has the second highest unemployment in the G7.
So this is exactly the part where they want you to focus on Pierre Poilievre's tone rather than what he says. Because this is the total GDP growth by country, and you can see where Canada is. Way, way down there, guys, behind the US, Denmark, Australia, Spain, the Netherlands, Sweden, and Norway. Also, when it comes to food inflation and prices, this is from the Food Professor. US versus Canada grocery prices from January to July of 2025, and it's not looking good. Look at this graph here, guys. The blue line is the United States, and this is Canada, and we are way, way up on inflation.
He's really reminding us all of that sign at the bar, free beer tomorrow. But you come back the next day, and the beer is still not free, and tomorrow never comes. Mr. Speaker, why is it that all of this Prime Minister's promises of yesterday turn into today's disappointments?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I think if we are going to build the strongest economy in the G7, and we will, we need to be clear. We need to be clear about the scale of the crisis we are in. We need to be clear about the scale of investment that we need. $60 billion in new projects announced last week. $200 billion in investment announced last week. $100 billion in house.
So I don't really think there's anything wrong with Pierre Poilievre's tone here, but let me know what you think down in the comments. I think Pierre Poilievre is back with a vengeance, rested, rejuvenated, and ready to take on Mark Carney. And Carney, meanwhile, is having a very hard time defending his record. But I think this is the calmest tone that we can expect to see in the fall session of the House of Commons. But that's my show for tonight, guys. Let me know what you think down in the comments. And as always, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, all that good stuff. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.
Johnny from Nova Scotia says thank you. Hey, Johnny from Nouvelle-Écosse, il dit merci, thank you.
Thanks to you.
Thank you so much. Perfect. Yeah, come on.